welcome back. I'm Statman Dave. Today, we're going to be taking a look at England's 0-0 draw with USA. It's not going to be a banger, but we're going to answer all your questions at the end of the stream, so make sure you stick around for that. We're also going to go tactically in terms of what England need to do to be better against these types of teams. I think England did really well against Iran. Thought they pressed well in that game, but they also created in between the lines. But then they faced a different team in USA, a team that squeezed them high at the pitch, pressed them out of the back. England need to find new solutions, and we're going to talk about that today. But welcome everyone to the stream today. We've got the likes of Michael, Charlie, John, in the chat. Go for all your wonderful questions as well. But England sit top of the group in the World Cup of Group B with Iran in second place after their victory over Wales. And of course, USA picked up a draw against Wales and a draw against England. In terms of the match, it felt like a match where England didn't really dominate the final third like they did against Iran. It felt a lot of possession was in that middle third of the pitch, and England really struggled to create a high quality chance despite having 55% of the ball. They only had 8 shots on goal. Going forward, though, I think there's a few things England need to maybe change to, basically improve their ability to play through those high press sides, which again is something that we're going to look at. I think from a player perspective, team selection perspective, it was pretty difficult for Gareth Southgate not to go with the 11 that beat Iran 6-2. I think when we're looking at that squad and the different elements of what England have got, I feel like there's definitely solutions to these problems that England could have used. The one concern at the moment is reported COVID in the England camp or around the camp in the delegation, which may have been why certain players didn't come on, off the bench and impact the game. In terms of the things that I liked about England, I thought both fullbacks again played well in build-up. I thought they dominated the ball in those areas well. But I think linking with those front 4 players was a concern for England. Harry Kane didn't have his greatest game, bringing people into play, but also in front of goal. And I thought Saka was a little off. Mount didn't really do anything, and same with Sterling. And I think that's something that Southgate may need to act a little bit faster in terms of these games. He waited until the 68th minute to bring on Jack Grealish and bring on Jordan Henderson to try and fresh that 11 up. But neither player really made an impact. I think when you're looking at the sort of the selection and the substitutes to impact the game, of course, England started in the 4-2-3-1 that does move into a 4-1-4 shape in possession. I think when you look at that and you think, bringing someone like Jordan Henderson into that team, into that number sort of 8 position, you're not really going to, break a team down. Henderson is all about the legs, all about the running, all about getting into the final third, combining, but maybe not creating. And I thought one of the big things that England need to do is play Phil Foden in the central area. I think that's one of the things that Gareth Southgate needs to get into his mind, that when England need to score goals or when they need to get into the game, bringing Phil Foden on centrally needs to be a big thing that they're going to do going forward. I think one of the sides of of England that we looked at previously, Gareth Southgate spoke about the substitutes, spoke about bringing on Grealish, bringing on Marcus Rashford, and when he was asked about why he didn't bring on Phil Foden, he said, well, we already changed both of our wide players. I think one of the big things we need to see Phil Foden in this central area. He's fantastic in that position. Think about one of his best games for England playing as a number 8. I think it was this year where he just ran riot in central midfield. And whether England kind of changed the shape to that 4-3-3 structure, when bringing on Phil Foden, or alternatively, keeping it a similar way where Mason Mount drops into a deeper position next to Declan Rice, as we've seen them do for England, and then Foden starts in a higher position. But I think that's definitely got to be, something England to look forward going forward, because they did look really lethargic in this game. Whether it was the heat, whether it was the frequency of this game to the last game, maybe changing players out. In rounds, in games, got to be a big thing for England going forward, because again, the squad's good. We mentioned Phil Foden should have come on, could have made an impact, but also we've got the likes of Callum Wilson, who came off the bench in the last game and looked really, really good. Especially he offers something different for England. Stretching the opposition in behind. Made a number of really good runs into the channel against Iran and created a goal, got himself an assist. And when Harry Kane's a little bit off it, like it was today, then England really need to look at, different options. I think when we look at the average positions for England against America, you've got Harry Kane in that super deep false 9 position. It almost felt like in this game that England actually needed somebody spinning in behind the defence and opening the team up in that perspective versus coming back, as we can see with, Harry Kane's really deep position, arguably next to Jude Bellingham. His position is deeper than Sterling, than Saka, than Mason Mount. That's not necessarily bad when you're looking to play between the lines and dominate, but I felt too frequently we had, England's defensive unit on the ball, America's kind of shape, And then our forward line, it didn't have the same kind of 3-8 behaviour that we saw in previous games. I think the average positions in the last game for England were a lot better than the game. Take the 6-2 against Iran. I thought England's, shape was a lot better. And you can see Harry Kane's position. Yes, he came off the line, but he also did damage in the penalty area. I don't think we saw that, high enough up the pitch at certain times, against USA in the 0-0 draw. I thought there was issues there in performance. And again, like Harry Kane is a wonderful footballer, but, you take maybe he's too deep at times, needs to play high against teams that press high. It's a slightly different role for him, which I think England need to kind of get on the back of and get on. I think England played some good stuff. Don't get me wrong. I thought, there were two moves especially that were really, really good for England that allowed them to kind of, break through and play properly, play more of the football that they played against Iran. One of the first ones was the move, in the opening half, 9 minutes into the game, between John Stones combining and playing that progressive pass. What I don't think we saw enough against America was the sort of the front three moving around and Bellingham spending time in between the lines. I thought it was something that was really good with Jude's performance against Iran, was how frequently he moved into those high areas and, it was an option. Basically Jude is opening up this passing lane for Saka to drop in, because he's on the blind side of their centre mid. There's a threat behind, so it opens up that lane and England can progress to play. This didn't happen enough. There was two moves in the game which I enjoyed, which I noted down. I was like, that is a move that England played against Iran. It's progressive, but you can see the rotation. Mason Mount in a deep position. The build-up's in a 3. With kind of Shaw in a bit of a controlling position, Maguire deep, Declan Rice holding in defensive midfield. That, of course, move forward and they progress the play to the wide area. There's a little layoff from Saka to Trippier, and then England are behind the America midfield, and we didn't see that enough. We didn't see enough of England playing between the lines. This was a constant problem, I thought, especially in that second half. Nobody in these types of positions on the blind side of the centre mids, causing problems with movement, and that's something that they did well in this move, getting behind the defence. And again, England bodies, the width of the attack's good with Sterling, Kane's providing a threat, Bellingham's now in possession, and England are flooding the box. This is something that I feel England need to do more. There's not enough of this in these games for it to be a tactical trend. It almost feels like the performance against Iran is the polar opposite of the performance against America. Against Iran, superb on the ball, got bodies into the box, utilise Bellingham as a kind of box-to-box 3-8, 10 dropped off midfield. They had bodies in between the lines. They used the width of the pitch, but it wasn't frequent enough in the game. This is a great example of England creating a really good opportunity. 5 players in and around the box, Mason Mount just on the edge, Sterling narrow, Kane narrow, Bellingham getting in there. And it was a big chance for Harry Kane. It was a big chance that he missed. And also, like, when you look at the game time, a lot of these England players, it feels like they need an early goal to get them going. It's really similar to Manchester United how the confidence it just completely flips. If you get an early goal, they're flying, they're playing good football. And that was a big chance that England played through. They created wide. Saka cut back, got to be 1-0 England, but unfortunately wasn't. And it took to 44 minutes for England to get another move of quality. And came through Luke Shaw. Obviously, he's been very good in the tournament so far, directly involved in 5 goals in his last 5 England games. He's in great form, and this impetus of driving and carrying and overlapping, it just didn't feel like we had enough of this. We didn't have enough fluidity. We didn't have enough impetus at times from players playing deep and playing forward. The rotation wasn't the same as last time, where at times we saw, the likes of Sterling and Saka, dropping into deep positions to get on the ball and to, make things happen. For England, we didn't see that enough. And I thought what was superb against Iran was at times we'd have Shaw wide, Mount on the inside channel, Sterling in a deep position, and then the kind of the right made of a natural kind of a natural rotation or a natural positions, Bellingham, Saka wide, having the wide threat, having the inside players, but also having Sterling in this deep position, it causes problems for the opposition because they have to adjust. Sterling for that I think it was the second goal of the game, picked the ball up in almost a half position, a left back position, then opened up that kind of lane for Maguire to fire in. We didn't have that enough. We didn't have Shaw in a high enough position frequently to really kind of unlock the door. And it's one of these things where England are building through this tournament. Yeah, this isn't the finished article right now, but there's got to be more to this, more rotation, more interplay, and so forth. And again, this was a good move. Shaw playing into Sterling, very simple overlap, good move from Shaw to get inside. And again, good movement from Sterling off the line to the cutback position, then fires his shot over the bar. I'm not massively upset with the performance from a defensive perspective, but I thought on the ball, England so much better than they showed. So much better than they showed against England. But guys, get into the chat your thoughts of this game. John, go USA, go. We've got a USA fan in the chat. Kevin saying the USA bossed the midfield, which I think you can, from a perspective of work rate. The USA put in a good number of tackles. Musa won 2 out of his 2 tackles. Tyler Adams won out of 1 interception. And I think, the shape-wise, I thought was very good from the USA. They were compact. They gave England no space in between the lines, which I think is something that's difficult to do against England. They did it very well. Michael in the chat, Rice, Mount, Bellingham all struggled. Saka had a very off day. Sterling meh. Kane was typical Kane, deep, leaving no man up top, no closing down. I thought England as a pressing side could have done a bit better as well. The concerns with Saka having an off day, I've got none, because this is probably his first off day in 2 seasons, and for such a young player, I think that's absolutely fine. In the game, failed to complete a dribble, no shots on target, created only one chance. It was a little bit out of the game, but I thought that was also to do with England's lack of ability to play through and to penetrate those, the midfield lines and the defensive lines from America. So I don't think it was so much on just Saka having a bit of an off day. England didn't get him the ball enough 34 times. Let's have a look at the previous game against Iran. Just as a general comparison, 49 times. So England are getting Saka the ball a lot more in the game against Iran. Obviously, he's doing the damage. It's as simple as that. Sterling's heat map is really nice. The fluidity of his heat map in that game, the drifting was very, very good compared to the match against the USA. It's very sort of standard. There's a lot more drifting in that other game. That's a big thing with possession-based sides, is mobility, moving things around, England having an off day. And I do go back to that initial point, why Phil Foden didn't come off the bench. And that's a big concern. When I've seen Jack Grealish this season, when he's played as a winger, when he's playing wide, when he's playing on the touchline, I've not really been impressed. Wasn't really impressed with it last year either. When I talk about playing wide, I mean when, let's rotate it round. Let's just get rid of those arrows. So when Jack Grealish is receiving in these wide areas, when City have got the 2-3-8s or England have got the 2-3-8s, and the defence is set, I feel Grealish kind of struggles in these positions. And I'd say almost if you want to bring on Jack Grealish at this point in the game, you rotate it round and Jack Grealish plays more inside and you drop your centre mid to DM and you throw Luke Shaw high and wide. I feel like that's a much better way to build England up with that. And Grealish has that kind of ability there that he isn't dealing with a fullback and a midfielder. Potentially could get 1v1 with a centre-back. He's got more bodies in and around him, more options to play wide, more options to switch to play and link with teammates. That's where Jack Grealish should be playing. But I do think Phil Foden had to have come off the bench. I think that's the biggest thing that we've learned from this game. Whether he was ill or however it's going to be sold, we need to bring players that have got this type of quality. You've got a player of Phil Foden's quality that's been brilliant this season in the Premier League. You're looking at his overall statistics, that they're absolutely fantastic. He's made an impact for Man City, 7 goals and 3 assists in 14 games, left wing as well. So I question that some of the substitutions, or even if England wanted to kind of change things up and bring Phil Foden on and play Foden wide left, still have Shaw in a deep position, and then maybe go with Mount high with Grealish as a number 10. Similar kind of proposition as what we previously had. I personally wouldn't have brought on off Bellingham. I think if England could have, won this game and kind of, with Bellingham in that advanced area, over and over again, he'll play 90 minutes for Dortmund. He's got a great ability to play through games. And I feel like having him in the back end of the game with Saka, or, with Rashford as he came on, with Foden, with Grealish, opens up a different proposition as well with Callum Wilson through the middle. Southgate needs to do better with substitutions, I think, going through the tournament. But yeah, again, guys, get your thoughts in. In the second half, Southgate should have played a 4-3-3. Rashford as a striker, Saka on the right, Grealish on the left. Kane looked terrible. I felt sorry he didn't have enough service. Yeah, I think that real lack of England playing, kind of through the USA block was a big concern. And I thought with Wilson, you could have potentially opened up more space in between the lines to, to allow the likes of Grealish a little bit more time on the ball. When you have a forward that runs in, you create more space from that perspective for those guys to really open things up, which I really felt could have happened. And I tell you what, I can't wait to see James Maddison in this England team, because he's someone that would have been utilised really, really well today. But guys, yeah, good stuff. England obviously have still got a bit of work to do. England need a draw in the game. England need to not lose by 4 goals against Wales, so should be simply through to the last 16 of the World Cup, which is kind of great news for everybody. And that's something that hopefully England can continue through. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the stream. We'll be back after the next England game. Again, England's next game is against Wales, and that'll be 7 o'clock on the 29th, which is 29th is, of course, next Tuesday, guys. So, thanks everyone for joining with us today. We're going to do some more live streams on this channel, so make sure you are subscribed. Let's get this party started. Big GGs in the chat to you wonderful people. And hopefully you have a nice time this evening. Maybe get yourself a beer to calm yourself down. But England are on their way to the knockout stage.